Evening, sweethearts. How are we today? Hope you've had a good day and you're going to have a good night. This is the second story about the bears, and this one is called The Age of Acorns. Bear was deep in thought. The others had sat him high in the old oak tree to be what they called a lookout. He had been told to watch out for dragons, and that was just what he had been doing during the game. Being deep in thought was the thing he liked most to do. Thinking is what a bear like him does best. He was so good at thinking after many years of practice that he could pretend to be doing something else at the same time. The others, the children who made up the games, never knew what he was thinking about, but they knew he was thinking. It was the end of summer. Bear was thinking deeply about how good it would be if summer could last all the year. Now was the time he liked most of all, the time when most happened in the garden around the old oak tree. For Bear it was the age of acorns. The acorns that formed among the green oak leaves around his lookout branch had begun to turn brown and to loosen from their cups. Every now and then an early one would fall through the canopy of leaves and go plop on the garden far below. Summer would become autumn when all the acorns fell to the ground. Next the leaves would change their green to brown and then fall. The tree would be bare and it would be winter. And, thought Bear, if the others didn't soon remember to fetch him and take him inside, he might have to stay in the tree while all that happened around him. Some time earlier, the others had been called into the house for tea. Usually he would have been gathered up and taken inside, but that evening he was left behind, and he'd have to remain where he was until someone remembered him. Even as it grew dark, Bear could still see the house where the others had gone. He could hear their chatter, and the sounds of tea. There were always 4 children who played the games that needed him, 2 who lived in the house, and 2 who came up from the street. Once Bear had heard one of the children say that any good game had to have a bear in it, so he felt needed and important. But now he was becoming cold and dark, and Bear felt forgotten as he looked down through the leaves and gloom in the garden. He looked in the direction of the back fence and could just see the walnut tree in the corner where the nasties came under the fence with their tanks and bombs and things when it suited the others. Along one side of the garden beyond the clothesline and lavender hedge was a cherry plum tree and an artichoke forest. Then beyond that were the woods, the strange world of next door. Bear felt sure one of the others would come to fetch him as an excuse to get out for doing homework, or at last a moment between teeth time and bedtime. Otherwise he'd have to stay outside all night, and strange things happened in the garden at night. He knew that. So being a thinker, he tried not to think forward and thought backwards. He thought about the game of castles and dragons that had been played in the usual way that afternoon. From his lookout place in the highest turret of the castle, he could still imagine most of the battlefield. In his own special way, he thought that he could see the retreating enemy through the smoke haze of cannon fire that wafted around the fortress walls. Bear knew the enemy well. They had attacked many times after school during earlier ages of acorns. The others knew them as dragons, and Bear supposed this was because they couldn't see what they were from his point of view. He could make them be an enemy he wanted them to be. He supposed that why he was always given the part of lookout in games. The afternoon, as usual, the dragons had been defeated. The weary knights and maidens had gone inside, and the smoke of battle began to smell like burning acorns in the incinerator near the back gate. Night settled gently around the forgotten Bear like reality after a dream. Bear tried not to think of the night, but further ahead to tomorrow. He guessed, as best he could, about what game the others would choose to play after school tomorrow. If it was to be pirates and galleons, there would be planks to walk. It might be cowboys and Indians with arrows and scalpings and lots of noise. It could even be the game of space flights to far galaxies, and he would do his special spacewalk. See him doing his walk. Bear chose the pirate game to think about. The others would raise the Jolly Roger on the highest branch, and the tree would instantly become a pirate ship. There would be wooden swords and black eye patches and a treasure of golden acorns wrapped in silver paper to bury. Later, captives would be taken and teased like live beetles in matchboxes. Then he, the crow's nest lookout bear, would be taken down and tied up and made to walk the plank. The game was always the same, and Bear knew his part in it like the back of his paw. It was the way a pirates play. Returning from thought, he noticed that it was quite dark. He could not see all the house, only the lights in the windows. 2 lights downstairs and 1 in the big bedroom upstairs, the one he should now be sharing with the rest of the toys belonging to the others. He thought about the house. From the outside, it was 2-storied, but inside, in its rooms, Bear knew of many stories, just like me. Bear thought wisely. On the outside, one just thoughtful Bear, but inside him somewhere is a whole lot of things he could think about and remember and forget and even make up. Outside the safety of the house, strange things could happen in the garden at night. Strangers with unfamiliar games can use the garden for play while you sleep. Another world can come to visit. Bear shivered a little shake which he copied from the children. The kind you make when you think of something scary. The shiver you do when pretending to be cold, not frightened. Bear shivered because he thought he saw a light in the artichoke forest by the fence that divided his world from where the Woods family lived. The strange light danced about as if carried by somebody he couldn't see. He watched it weave its way around the clothes hung on the line, even though the lavender hedge and then through the lavender hedge and out on the open garden. He watched it come to rest below his branch on the old oak tree. Just then the moon appeared from behind a cloud and gave him more light to see, and there they were. 4 creatures stood in a group around the light directly below him. See them there. He clearly saw an old wrinkled woman dressed in green oak leaves that seemed to be sewn on her like a patchwork quilt. She was holding a white lily that produced a scary yellow light, and she was pointing directly at him. Beside her was Michael, the sad dog who belonged to the Woods family. Beside him crouched Modelstein, the calculating cat. She also belonged to the Woods when she wasn't away wandering. The 4th member of the group was Belladonna Snagglefang. Bear had heard the others talk of her, but until now he'd never seen her. She'd been made by one of the Woods family out of old sacks, rope and bright paint. Her long body was stuffed full of wheat husks, which spilt on the ground, leaving a trail as she moved. She was looking up at him. They were all looking up at him. Bear knew this was no game he'd ever played before. It was something new, and he was frightened. They made no sound at all, and all the games he knew made sounds. He wasn't really scared of Michael, the sad dog, or Modelstein, the cat, because until now they'd never shown much interest in a bear like him. But he felt quite unsure of the ugly doll, Belladonna. She moved about as if she was alive, yet her painted face remained a fixed stare. The sight of the old woman in green was the thing that gave him fear. She was clearly the one in control of whatever game they were about to play. Then she spoke. "Bear," she crackled. "Bear, down you be coming. We will have a new game to teach you. Down you be coming, Bear." And her voice trailed off to a fearful laugh. The next thought that Bear had was so tightly squashed between fear on each side that it was hardly a thought at all. For as she had spoken, he had seen her teeth, and they were green as the leaves that made the clothes she wore. Instantly he knew that she must be Jenny Greenteeth, the story witch, and she was in his garden, his world. Until now, Jenny Greenteeth had only appeared in a story, one called Giantland, which was sometimes read to the others by someone in the Woods family. The scary story to be told only when the children were safely tucked into bed inside the house. Bear and the other toys pretended not to be listening to the tales told of the evil witch. That's what toy corners in children's bedrooms are for overhearing stories. He'd always be sure she was too evil ever to come out of a story and be real, but now he could see he had been wrong. She beckoned to him as only witches can, with a long twiggly finger which seemed to have green slime dangling from it. She beckoned him down from his familiar place high in the tree. He watched the slimy finger in the lily light and the moon, and he felt himself moving to obey her command. He'd never done that before, he thought, as he moved to get up. He'd never actually moved without help before. Bear trembled unsteadily as he reached down for the branch below and then the next. Then there came a familiar sound, a comforting sound that often broke up the games the others played. The back door of the house was open and somebody he knew was coming at last to bring him inside. They had remembered him. He was no longer forgotten. As he waited now to be rescued, he looked down again at the terrible group. A cloud-like mist had begun to swirl around to hide them, the kind of mist, he thought, in which anything might happen, where nothing is but thinking makes it so. And they just faded away together. Safely inside the house, comfortable now in the corner with the other toys, Bear was still shivering. Not a pretended or copied one, but one of his very own. He was thinking about what happened and what might have happened in the garden that night, and he's still thinking about it. Hope you enjoyed that story. These teddy bears were the teddy bears that myself and my sisters had when we were children. They were the only bears available, were those stuffed ones with straw. So it brings back memory of those bears looking like that. Good night.